Good evening and welcome to I'm Listening Live. And we're here to normalize mental health, getting everyone familiar, hearing about, talking about. Because again, we are in the thick of things, and I know that everyone is starting to struggle, and some new familiar things are popping up along with some unfamiliar things. And so, right now, I'm telling everyone just be kind with yourselves. We're going to have a new relationship with our bodies, with our mental health, with those around us, and our coping mechanisms. So, again, we want to take everything seriously. We want to always be checking in on our mental health as well as the mental health of those around us, while also acknowledging that within the context of COVID, it's definitely amplifying things and making it more difficult. So, be loving in both the ways you talk about yourself, but also the way you talk about others. And as far as coping mechanisms, we want to be very loving, but also conscious and thoughtful about the ones we choose. There's definitely a spike in the increase of alcohol as well as drug use. So do be thoughtful about that. That will have an impact on how you feel about both your body, your mood, your mental health, and also just energy levels and getting that good enough sleep. Because right now, sleep and rest are what are truly going to heal us. I understand also that sleep is something that's been a little compromised. I've had it happening to myself. A lot of us are doing sitting all day long, not getting the usual movements and distractions in our lives. So just be very cautious that leading up to bedtime, you are making sure you're turning off the phones, letting your system slow itself down, and really reserving the bedroom for just sleep. And then finally, I want to just acknowledge that it is Suicide Prevention Month. So please, anyone you haven't heard from, anyone who might be higher risk, check in on them, let them know that you're there, that you're thinking of them. Also on your social media, post resources for those that need that. And finally, let's make sure we are still being activists, because some of the toxic systems of oppression in our culture that do lead to some people to choose death by suicide and also other struggles are born out of racism and homophobia, fat shaming, trans antagonism, all those things. So make sure you are being activist and paying attention to all the things that are going on around you in the world. All right, we're going to go to our first guest, musician Ashe. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I always start by asking about mental health. How's your mental health doing right now?
I feel like honestly, I feel so grateful and lucky. I'm doing pretty well, honestly.
I believe you. I mean, I can see it around you. You know how you talk to some people and you say, how are you? And they say they're doing fine, and you can tell they're not. You seem to be doing all right now. What kind of self-care have you been doing?
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. That's cool. I love that. Um, I do a lot of work around it pretty consistently. In the mornings, I set about an hour of time out every morning of journaling, sort of the first thing when I wake up. And and then I read for a little while. I sort of don't let the world enter my space for at least the first hour of the day. Um,
Ashe, I'm
just
so proud of you. You're probably the first person that has said that they do that. Can I just tell you, number one, everyone take some inspiration from that. But what an act of self-esteem that is for you to give yourself that hour every single day. That's beautiful.
Oh, well, thanks. It's definitely, I mean, it's just been the way I've done it for a really long time, and I think it's kept me really sane and healthy. And, doing what I do, I have the opportunity to constantly be talking to other people and giving my energy and loving on other people. And I have to sort of like, got to take care of myself first
That's right.
in order. Yeah. So,
And I was laughing at a quote of yours because it sounds like me. You said, and it's kind of a paraphrase, but you said, you were talking about touring, being on tour and self care. And you said, my body's a hot mess and I get sick really easily on tour. I'm one of those people where any cold or flu that's going around, I will guarantee to pick it up. So, did you have to work on improving yourself because of the touring? How did that all come together?
yeah, I think I've been on probably, I think it's been a total of 7 tours, and one was my first headline tour. So the very last tour I did was my first headline. And the 6 tours prior to that, as a support act, I got sick every single tour. And I learned that my body just it really, if you're not careful, it can really suck the life out of you. And so on my headline tour, I was the most um the most aware possible that I could have been, and took the best care of myself. I didn't get sick once, and it was the longest tour I've ever done. I think it was like 2.5 months long. And I didn't get sick once, and I was so damn proud. Oh my gosh.
Don't rub it in. I can't go a full year without picking something up.
Oh no. I think really it had to do, I just needed to be, I was much more intentional about
Okay.
what I was eating. And I made my like meet and greets with fans before the show so that when I was dead tired after the show, I wasn't, going to hug people when I'm the most maybe vulnerable and
Right.
empty. And yeah,
So
yeah.
how's that all changed for you during quarantine and COVID? It sounds like you get a lot of inspiration and energy from being in real time with your fans. So how's that impacted everything?
Oh, I mean, it makes me sad. I miss them. I miss being out there and on the road. But as sort of extroverted and bubbly as I can be, I'm pretty introverted. I gain most of my energy from being alone. So quarantine's been like weirdly good. Like, I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't go to your party because it's COVID. Like, yeah,
You
I don't
can't go to the
know.
party because you're busy at home thriving without them.
I'm thriving. I will take a journal session by myself over a party any
Well done. Well done. And so
day.
let's talk about the intersections of mental health and music. Do you see the ways that they interact with each other? And if so, what do you think the impact is?
Mm. Yeah, I think music is an extremely important tool that we can sort of use against or for ourselves. Um, because if you're like feeling just the most heavy and sad, you can find the playlist to just like sink into it, you know? Which maybe is exactly what your soul needs for that day. I don't know. I'm not one to judge or pick for you, but music on the other hand can be incredibly healing. And yeah, I feel really lucky that this is sort of my job. I just get to like sit and write, and it be an incredibly therapeutic experience.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I picked up reading some of the interviews you've done. You talked a lot about how authentic you work to be, how a lot of your lyrics are, direct quotes from your journaling. And so, what an interesting way to approach music where you're both providing something really healing and transformative and entertaining to others, but it's also you kind of working through and processing your own stuff.
Mm.
You're using them for
Whoa.
therapy.
I'm just using, that was so introspective.
Yeah.
Wow. We got to talk more often. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I definitely am able to, you know, I think, well, as an artist, we sort of are, I feel like in a way, our job is to go out into the world and experience it, or rather go out into nowhere because we're in quarantine. Um, but it's to experience life and then to report back and sort of express how life has shown itself to you and in your own art, unique artistic way. And um, yeah, I think I try to do my best at being the most authentic, but that ranges from when I'm super mature. Um, like I wrote a song called Moral of the Story, which is maybe the most mature record I've ever written. But then I just released a song called Save Myself, which is like easily in the anger phase of grieving. That's like maybe arguably not that mature, but like also just working through those emotions and very human. And yeah, I try to be pretty honest
Yeah.
overall.
I can feel it. I think if you're astute enough, you can sit with someone's music and you can hear how much of them is really present in it. And in listening to your music,
Mm.
especially preparing to sit with you and interview you, I was listening to a lot of it and I could very much feel you in the music. And so well done. Your vulnerability comes through.
Oh, that's like the best compliment ever. Thank you so much. Choice I can make when I go into performing the record, and I can either choose to dig back into all those really excruciating feelings, which is sometimes exactly what the audience needs or I need in that moment. And then other times I can sort of detach myself from the song, and that it's been adopted by so many people across the world that it's no longer just my own song.
Mm.
So it takes on a whole new life. Um, so yeah, there's a lot less. I mean, it's still a very vulnerable song, but at the end of the day, I can do some healthy detaching from like remembering the day I signed my divorce papers and, all of that.
Mm. It's interesting because most people's careers, they're not intertwined with our true lives, or they allow us to leave things behind. But I was thinking about that when I was reading the lyrics to that song. Is like, wow, this just keeps this very much present in her life. But what a beautiful way to frame it, that you get it re-narrated and people that listen to it add their own stuff to it, so it evolves.
Yeah, well, and the fact that, I got out of a really toxic relationship that wasn't good for me, put put my story in a song, and then now people will come to me and be like, I left my toxic ex because, of, moral of the story, it really helped me get past that relationship. And I mean, I would be a very, selfish person to think that my music is about me and it starts and ends with me.
Right.
It has such a bigger story attached to it.
And as far as your journey, you talked or have talked many times about having come from a very conservative family, and we're at a cultural moment right now where everyone's kind of being challenged to be better and beyond how they were raised.
Mm.
What kind of journey did you go on to get yourself to the place you're at now?
Well, do you have an hour and a half to get into it?
We have about 2 minutes.
I'm just kidding. Oh, great. Okay, so the abridged version. Well, I don't know. I think life if you're open to it and you ask the universe to teach you, then it'll be like, all right, okay, you asked for it. Let's teach you. And I moved 3,000 miles away from home and went to Berklee College of Music, and it's an incredibly large international school. So I was thrown into tons of different cultures and ways of thinking. And I've always wanted to be a really empathetic and loving human. And if that's who I claim to be, then learning about those other cultures and figuring out that there's not one way to see things was a really big part of my story and my growth, and definitely has made me a better human. Yeah, I don't know if I just answered your
A
question,
hundred,
but
a hundred
yeah.
percent, 100%. I think that was a really valuable tip that you gave, which is like there's so much to gain and learn from being around people that are different from us, and a lot of people tend to swim in a circle of people that just reflect back exactly how they are. And so I like what you're saying. Find diversity. We grow from it.
Oh, I could not agree with that more. Yeah, get outside yourself. Go find people who don't agree with you. Even if you feel like you are the one with the open-minded perspective, like get into a loving, honest conversation. Try and, disarm each other and really have a real conversation. I mean, that 5 to 15-minute conversation you had could change you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, beautifully said. And for those that are trying to be themselves, authenticity is something that's really important to you. It's a thread that I see woven throughout your entire career. What kind of tips do you give to our listeners that are struggling? Because, we live in a world where everything, literally everything is telling you you need to change, you're not good enough. I'm talking social media,
Mm.
advertising. And so as someone who's in the spotlight, someone who, pushes back on that, what kind of tips or tricks would you give to people?
Oh, this is so loaded.
I'm making you think today. I'm making you think.
You are. I love it. It's so good. Well, I just feel like I mean, again, I could give you a really long list, but at the end of I think you have to start with knowing who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then someone will decide for you,
Mm.
always. And it's so much easier to adopt what someone else thinks of you if you haven't figured it out for yourself first. So, how often are we like in a, adolescent stage of life or even older that you meet someone new and you want to date them and you're like, tell me everything about you. Why don't we do that sort of with ourselves and like take yourself on a date, maybe not out in public since it's COVID, but create a cute environment, make yourself some lasagna at home, light a candle and have a date with yourself and get to know yourself a little bit better. And start with really knowing who you are. And I think that's a really good place to start, because then you realize other people will always have opinions about who you should be and what's best for you, but you start realizing that it just because they inherently think they know what's best for you or have opinions about your life doesn't actually inherently mean they're right, you
Oh,
know?
I want to highlight
So,
that, draw a line under it, circle it.
yeah, me too. I could listen to that or read that every morning. I need the reminder myself.
Yeah, but I want to go back to just highlight this as we kind of wind down is you every day you start your day with just centering yourself, focusing on yourself, self-care. I've been trying to say that to our listeners to nauseum. Focus on self-care now more than ever. And the fact that you take an hour out of your time, pushing back, checking the phone, just journaling, that's stunning to me.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, it just is sort of, I'm such a better person and I'm better for other people. It's like, it's maybe it feels selfish at first because you're like, I'm prioritizing myself, above everything else in this day. I'm going to me first. But really, it's like, it's kind of the most selfless thing you can do because I personally end up being a much kinder, more empathetic, more open minded, more loving human being when I've sort of taken care of my own stuff first. Um, but yeah, thanks for saying that and encouraging me. And I'm keeping it up. I'll
Keep
keep
it
doing
up.
it.
Doctor's orders, right? Dr. Chris says.
All right.
Congratulations, Billboard Hot 100. Moral of the story, we got that playing on all of our stations and Save Myself. Ashe, thank you so much for everything you're doing and for being a part of our show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Chris. You are lovely, and let's chat anytime. Call me
Absolutely.
anytime.
I will do so. Be well. Have a great night. All right, so much to learn from that. Every time we center ourselves and we focus on our mental health and our self-care, that's going to have a wide-reaching effect and impact everything we do and all the different people in our lives. So definitely continue to prioritize that. Thank you all for hanging out. You want to check out past episodes of I'm Listening Live, you can do so on all the radio.com handles. That's our YouTube, our Twitter, and our Facebook. And we'll be back next week, 5 p.m. Pacific, that's 8 p.m. Eastern. For those that need some more resources or support, we're going to put them up online after the show. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, and you all have a beautiful, beautiful night.